Today's story is about James Brown. After hearing it, you'll decide for yourself whether James truly got the chance to start his life over. Did he manage to make use of the time that fate had given him? You'll be able to ask yourself and honestly answer, did he actually manage to change anything? Or were those just dreams and wishes, a hope to change something for real? Maybe they were just empty promises he wouldn't have been able to keep anyway, even if things had gone differently. That's for you to decide. So, here is the story of James Brown. The story of James Brown began with a 911 emergency call. When a stranger reported a traffic accident near the Doghouse Bar in Queens. A man, around 60 years old and under the influence of alcohol, had been hit by a vehicle. Police and emergency medical services rushed to the scene. James was taken to the hospital, where his wife, Margaret Brown, soon arrived. Margaret wasn't angry at all. She just wanted James to wake up and recover after the surgery. She prayed that his heart would hold on, even though he had caused her so much pain and brought her so many disappointments.
Please don't worry so much, Mrs. Brown. The doctors are fighting for his life and will do everything they possibly can. You need to rest. You're exhausted. Take care of yourself. You need your strength. You just need to believe and trust the doctors right now. Please stay strong, Mrs. Brown. A little patience, and everything will be all right.
I prayed to God to give me just one more moment to see my husband's beloved eyes again. I had forgiven him for everything. The only thing that mattered was that he had to live. Life is the most precious thing we have.
A few hours earlier.
James loved casinos and entertainment venues. On weekends, he didn't mind warming up with a beer or two with friends, playing a round of roulette, then chasing it down with glass after glass of whiskey or something stronger. He could spend hours at the slot machines. Nothing else mattered to him. He loved to drink and party. Meanwhile, Margaret, his wife, was always home alone, waiting for him. James didn't care. He always said that everyone had the right to personal freedom. And so, Saturday came, and it was the same old story, same as always. But this time, the night ended with James in a hospital bed, and Margaret sitting beside him in that hospital room. She couldn't believe he was hanging by a thread, that he was fighting for his life, that he had fallen back into his old ways again. He had promised her he'd only meet up briefly with his close friend Michael and then come home. But, like always, James got pulled back in. Casinos, booze, young women. The night city, it draws you in, fascinates you. And so many people get lost in it. They forget to set the right priorities in life. They choose the flashy, loud nightlife instead, all painted in shades of alcohol-fueled euphoria, don't you think? You long for the party, the feeling of eternal youth, the rush, the speed. But don't you think it's all just a trick your mind plays on you, and that everything has its time and place? And then there's a limit, a point where you can no longer stop yourself, and life steps in and stops you instead. Sadly, we often don't even stop to think. Could our actions cause disappointment or maybe even pain to the people closest to us? And sometimes, it's too late. Too late to say you're sorry. Too late to change the situation. too late to feel remorse or make things right. Because life doesn't always give second chances. It takes away the most precious things you have, your time and your energy. Protect your energy. Value your time. Without those, there's nothing.
It felt like something was tightening around my body, like it was hard to breathe. I couldn't move. I was being pulled deeper into the darkness. It scared me and held me, not like a hug, but like a grip. I wanted to take a deep breath, but I couldn't. What's happening? I asked myself. What's wrong with me? Where am I? Why am I here? But there were no answers. I was alone, drifting in that darkness and uncertainty. Images flashed one after another. A dark forest filled with an eerie fog and low clouds. Then an acid-colored sky in green and blue hues. And then suddenly, a lonely forest again. But it looked like I was seeing it through red film. I didn't understand any of it. I was alone and truly terrified. Then the sky split open with thunder and lightning, and I became even more afraid, as a terrifying realization crept over me. This might be the end. My end. I kept asking myself the same question. Why did I feel so restless, so scared? Was my life really that empty and meaningless, that this was how it would end? Frightening and absurd? I started to see the truth. I'd lived my life selfishly, only ever loving myself, while hurting the people who loved me most, especially Margaret. She didn't deserve that. No one did. I had a family. I had a wife who stood by me her whole life, who always forgave me, and I lied to her. She believed in me, believed in the promises I made, even though they turned out to be hollow. And now, I might never get another chance to ask her to forgive me, to give her even just a little more of my time. I wanted to run to her, to fly into her arms, but I couldn't break free from the darkness. What had I done? I ruined her life, and mine. I never became the good, worthy husband I promised I'd be on our wedding day. As it turned out, I hadn't even tried. Not really. I actually liked that I could come up with a new lie or story every time, and people believed me. That went on for years, and now I was disgusted, sickened, horrified by who I had become. It terrified me to realize that a deceitful, selfish man had been living inside me all along, that I'd spent my entire life chasing nothing but my own desires, and the people I loved, those who truly loved me, were just expected to accept it, to tolerate my behavior, my lies, my selfishness. But the scariest part was realizing that I was somewhere far away, alone, no one around me, and I couldn't escape the darkness, so I screamed. I screamed to rip the pain from my chest. I screamed until my throat burned, just to see if I could still feel anything, to find out if I was even still alive. Because if I could feel pain, maybe I hadn't completely disappeared. Maybe I was just lost. Maybe this was all some strange, terrifying dream. But there was no pain. I kept screaming. And then, where was I? There stood a doctor in a white coat, and my Margaret, my beloved Margaret. They were looking at something together, X-rays maybe. I was lying still, unable to move. Then I saw her hands, warm and gentle, holding mine. She smiled at me softly. And in that moment, I was the happiest man alive, just like I was on the day we got married. When Margaret left the room, the doctor and a young nurse came in. They said they were waiting for the test results, and would decide what to do next, since there were some complications and maybe another surgery would be needed. After that, everything felt like a blur. It was hard for me to move, and I felt pain. But for the first time, I was happy to feel pain, because pain reminded me I was alive. The doctor came in and told Margaret that another operation was ahead, but I didn't care about that. The most important thing to me was that I finally had a chance to give my wife happiness, to tell her, to tell my family, how much I love them all. I wanted to get out of the hospital as soon as possible to devote myself fully to them, because I had stolen so much time from all of them. From my beloved Margaret, from my son Mark, and even from my little granddaughter, Eleanor. She always wanted to spend weekends with her grandparents, and for me to read her bedtime stories. But I wasn't there. Margaret stayed with me all night. I was the happiest I've ever been in my life. I dreamed of getting home soon and hugging everyone. I asked Margaret to forgive me for everything, for all I'd done and all I hadn't, for not being a real, good husband to her. But I promised that everything would change, that things would be different from now on, that the James she married was dead, and the man she married would come back. I fell asleep dreaming of our happiness. I fell asleep dreaming of time. In the morning, the doctor came. They explained that I was about to be taken into surgery. They said something else, but I didn't hear it. All I could think about was the peace of my heart, my Margaret. I thought about my son and little Eleanor. I was happy. My heart was beating. And then, everything stopped.